So imagine if you release a product and you call it your cool uncle, and then you release another product and you call it your cool uncle Marissa. Okay, so is like your cool uncle Marissa a follow-up to your cool uncle? Is it an improvement? Is it well, that's kind of what Tanchjim did with the Tanchjim Ola and the Tanchjim Ola Bass. And I am your cool Uncle Marissa without predecessor, and I am here to compare the two because I wanted to know the difference, and I figured I'd share it with you while I find out. So if you've been around here, you know that I love music, and I love being able to hear music in the sound quality that feels best for me. You can see that I've done 2 videos on headphone reviews for small heads, headphones that are good for small heads, and this time this is unabashedly just comparing 2 IEMs. IEMs work, small head, big head, they generally are more reliant on the size of your ears. One of my favorite IEM reviewers on YouTube is Timmy from Giz Audio, and he did a review of the Tanchjim Ola, which I was also trying to find for a long time, spelling it like Ola, but it's not, it's like O-L-A. And he says that it's really good for vocals, and it's also just for a very niche person. At one point, I think he even says that the Tanchjim Ola is the new Tin T2, which I've spoken about before. It was a recommendation in my very first headphones for small heads, but he says it's the new Tin T2, which to me, and I think what he was trying to convey also is that it is a very vocal, heavy, bright type of sound signature. Now, going to look at the product, I see that there is the Tanchjim Ola and the Tanchjim Ola Bass, and they say that it's a bassier version of the Ola. So I tried to find a review of directly competing the two of those to try to see which one to go with, but I couldn't really find a ton on that. So I did what any sane person would do and purchased both. So this is my review of the two. If we have similar sound signatures, this might be helpful if you are also looking to see what is, like, literally what is the difference, because they look identical. So first off, let's take a look at them and then talk a bit about what really matters. How do they sound? Here are the two side by side. There's not a huge difference between the packaging, except the original Tanchjim Ola has a seductive anime child on it, which is automatically negative points from me. But you can see in the new Ola, they have the base very small too, so it's almost exactly the same. The contents are frankly almost identical as well, so I'm just going to do an unboxing of the Ola Bass. Front and center, we have Ola. If you lose the top packaging, you don't know if it's the base or not. There's not really a ton going on. And you lift that, and we've got the IEMs. And on both of these sets, I just love the metal build of the IEMs. It's quality. And then we've got our instructions, whatever, and ear tips. So they have 2 sets of ear tips, and there's ones that say bass on them and ones that say treble. We'll talk a bit more about that later. You guys probably already know that I tend to go straight for foam tips anyway, but I do like to give them a try just to see what is the sound signature outside of the box, default, just no personal additions. There's also these little O-rings that I have absolutely no idea what they're for. They're not in the Ola, just the Ola Bass. Please advise if you know. The bag is pretty neat too. I like drawstring bags. It's a nice little velour, just a nice touch. And you could just pop the IEMs out, and yeah, they look really lovely. They feel really lovely, very nice weight to them. I'm a sucker for metal IEMs. Just a thing to note, there's no designation for left or right on these. You just kind of have to figure it out, I guess. And then we have the wire. The wire is really interesting. It's not braided like most of the IEM wires that come with IEMs. It's kind of wrapped. And, you know, I kind of like it, to be honest with you. it doesn't feel luxurious, but it doesn't feel cheap. And there's something nice and compact about it. And here's the two sets side by side. Again, you can see they're almost identical. The right left markings are on the IM cord. You can see that one's red and one's blue, which is, you know, thank goodness they're somewhere. But it's kind of weird though that they're not on the IMs themselves. And then this is the Ola Bass, exact same cable. The only difference is this has a little remote. I haven't tried the mic on it, I don't use them, but there was no option to get one without a mic. And again, similar build quality to the Ola. The foam tips, by the way, are from my own stash. They don't come with the Ola. I don't want to be mean off the bat, but my very first listen to the Tanchjim Ola was, are these broken? Because they hurt. Like there's bright, there's, you know, pronounced vocals, but these were rough. Like it's and I'm not a bass head. I'm very forgiving of high treble sounds. The reason I went for these is because I heard they were so good for vocals. But oh, and maybe it's just because I was listening to the Watermark SG for a while, which is definitely lower than other pairs of IMs that I've used. But I did end up still listening to the Olas because I'm going to give it a chance. And upon listening to it, I have to say the separation of the highs and the mids was really nice. And there was still bass. That's weird to say. It wasn't, you know, the bass isn't you're not gonna feel it, but you can hear the bass. Now that's also affected a bit by the ear tips. There were the treble ear tips and the bass ear tips. I feel like the treble ear tips were better. You could still hear the separation between everything, but with the bass ear tips, it just felt like it was making the bass harsher. Like, I don't want to say punchier, like, because I don't mean punchy like the sound. I mean punchy like they're trying to beat up your eardrums. Like even the bass sounds harsh the same way the highs did. You would have to get foam tips. It's just awful with any of the stock tips. Also, the stock tips are weird. Like the sizing is weird. The treble tips are all significantly smaller than the bass tips, which I guess I can understand where it's coming from, but it's also not creating a seal and they're gonna fall out of your ears. And am I missing something? But they did sound good with some music. So they sounded really good with female voices that are paired with really like low instrumentals. They sounded pretty nice. Or vice versa, a low voice and higher strings. Classic rock sounded good, folk sounded good. I mean, good as so far as this pair. But pop sounded kind of bad, and I actually want to get to that at the end because I listened to some Group Love and it didn't sound good, but I listened to Halsey and it was awful. It was like physically painful. I specifically landed on 3 a.m. by Halsey and it was, it hurt. And I tried even some other songs off of her discography and it did not sound good, which, I mean, we'll see if it's different on the Ola Bass. But also classical music was not good for me on these. It was just violin, strings and stuff. The solos especially just, it was too high, too grating. Like I've heard some people say that they're good for like J-pop or that kind of female vocals, but I don't know. I don't listen to ton of J-pop, but it's just I can't imagine that being good. Overall, yeah, like I feel like they could work if you were able to swap out ear tips every song, or if you only listen to one of the genres that I said sound good. But it's rough going, man. In terms of the build quality, it's metal, it's nice, it's heavy. I love that. It fit in my ears really well. And compared with stuff I already have, they definitely have a lot more clarity than the Tin T2s. But at what cost? Like it feels like a little bug being given omniscient powers to hear every sound in the universe. That little bug would have great understanding, but at what cost? I felt like that little bug. I would say, yeah, again, the Warner SG, still the king here, because good coverage all over. So when my Tanchjim Ola Bass came in, I was nervous. So in terms of sound profile, the Ola Bass, the soundstage feels wider, which is interesting because I'd seen reviewers who said that the regular Ola had a wider soundstage. They might be right, but maybe I just didn't, maybe I didn't get a chance to hear that wide soundstage because of the pain that I was in. But the Ola Bass off the bat, it is not as harsh. It is heaven in comparison. So it does take you a second to realize if you're going from one to the other immediately, they are still bright, they are still vocal heavy. If you just saw Tanchjim Ola Bass on its own, without knowing that it was connected to the Tanchjim Ola, you would be extremely disappointed because you would get it and you would be like, what bass? Like when we put bass in the name of something, we expect like thump, thump, but like there isn't any of that. It's like, compared to the original Tanchjim Ola, these have bass. But that's like saying, compared to a ladybug, I'm very rich. The ladybug has no capital. Once I swapped out the tips for phone tips too, I could actually feel the bass a little too. So again, not super bass heavy, but you can feel it. In terms of the music, I listen to a lot of the same stuff. Really good separation of the layers. Again, a lot of detail. I listened to Hold On by Angus and Julia Stone, and I could hear like shakers or maracas or something that I don't think I'd heard before, or at least I haven't heard every listen through. So there was something really beautiful about that. Classical music also sounds good on them, unlike the original Tanchjim Ola. It doesn't feel like your ears are being pierced. Male vocals sound amazing. Female vocals, especially smoother vocals, like Julia Stone, like Phoebe Bridgers, Lucy Dacus, those women with the very smooth. It's smooth. I don't know how to describe it. I'm not a music person. I just enjoy consuming it. Fran Lebowitz said something about how like the only art form she can't really grasp or comprehend is music, because it's so beautiful, and everyone can connect with music. But where does it come from? Anyway, the Ola Bass, also you can go louder without it getting sharper. With the Tanchjim Ola, every time I turned up the volume, I felt like I was being attacked more in the ears. Just like, instead of it getting louder, the knives just kept getting sharper.
Flames on the side of my face.
And with the bass, though, I don't feel that way. It's good. The sound remains pretty much the same. It just gets louder. After listening to the Ola Bass and then going back to the regular Ola, I actually found that with the regular Ola, deeper voices, especially on women like Tracy Chapman, actually ended up sounding more nasally than accurate. So that was definitely interesting. So my initial impression of the Ola, where I was like, well, it works better with deeper voices, I don't know if it can hold its own by comparison to the Ola Bass. I'm absolutely keeping the Ola Bass, and the Ola is going back to Jeff Bezos, because it's like a mild torture device. I don't know who it's for. Like, it's for people who like vocals. Are they also masochists? I don't. But the Ola Bass is really nice. It's very detailed. It feels like it is what the original Ola wanted to be, and they kind of just got it down pat. So that kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video. It's kind of weird to have this naming convention and also be selling them concurrently, because the Ola Bass is an improvement on the Ola, but they didn't name it like the Ola 2. It's kind of, they did a different thing of like with Tin T2s, their naming convention is with numbers, but they actually never have the same sound signature. Whereas with this, they do have the same general sound signature, but it's improved on the second one to not be so harsh and to be more, to have more bass, but I wouldn't call it a bassy IM. So I think that from a consumer perspective, it's a very confusing naming convention, especially once you get them both and they literally look the same. The cord on the bass does have a remote control on it, which but like weird decisions there. That's all I'm saying. I think that if it was me, I would have phased out the original and just kept the Tanchjim Ola Bass. Called it maybe like the redesigned Ola. I also want to go back quickly to what I was saying earlier about pop music. So pop music does sound better with the Ola Bass. It is not, it's not the best thing to listen to it with. I think heavily like mixed music can sound better just with more bassy and just lower profile altogether. But Halsey, I listened to Halsey's 3 AM, I listened to her other songs with the bass, and they sound so bad. I love Halsey, but like I want someone to explain this to me, because her voice isn't higher pitched than a bunch of other women I listen to. I listen to Glass Animals, where a lot of their instruments can get pretty high too, and that sounded clean. Is it like the audio mixing? What is it? Because like it was kind of just, I was kind of losing my mind over it. Why does Halsey sound so bad on the Tanchjim Ola? That is Cool Uncle's question of the day. Please let me know in the comments below if you know. Otherwise, let me know if you'd like to see more or less IM reviews. If I get them, I'll review them. So I hope it's helpful. And thank you so much for sticking around, especially if you are not a audio person. If you're watching this anyway, that's really sweet of you. It means a lot. And as always, don't forget that Cool Uncle loves you. See you in the next one.